Good afternoon. You're watching DD India Live. Let's cut across live to Tokyo, where External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is addressing the Quad Foreign Ministers meeting. So these are the visuals that you can see from Japan National Press Club. You can see Dr. S. Jaishankar is there, who's attending the Quad meeting, the foreign ministers meeting, and there are other Indian officials on the stage, and the External Affairs Minister is shortly going to begin with a speech addressing the media about what happened in the meeting and what are the expectations and the key highlights of the meeting that we can expect from this Quad summit. Earlier, Quad reaffirmed its steadfast commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific, vowing towards a region where no country dominates others. So this has been one of the main highlights of the Quad meeting and the meeting that other ministers had with each other.
In the second Modi administration, which was inaugurated in 2019 and currently serving his second term. And since 2007, he has been a member of the upper house. His book, The India Way, Strategies for an Uncertain World, has been translated into Japanese by Haku Suisha. His second book, Why Bharat Matters, was also published this year. Correction, the minister has also been member of the upper house since 2019. This will be an opportunity to hear from the minister who has been at the forefront of the Indian diplomacy for a long time and still at the heart of it. This time, the minister is in Japan for the Quad foreign ministers meeting and has agreed to hold a press conference to sum up his visit to Japan. So far, from India, we had His Excellency Vajpayee, then Prime Minister, as well as Their Excellencies former Prime Minister Narasimha Rao and former Foreign Minister Mukherjee have taken the stage. As a member of the Indian Cabinet, Foreign Minister Jaishankar will be taking the stage for the first time since 2014. Today, we have, in addition to the Foreign Minister, we have to your right, His Excellency C.B. George, Ambassador of India to Japan, and to your left, Mr. Nagaraji Naidu, Director General in charge of Americas in the Ministry of External Affairs. We'd like to have the Foreign Minister speak for about 10 minutes, after which we will move on to Q&A with the audience and those participating online. We will now start taking questions online, so please write in the QA with your name and affiliation. The moderator will be Akio Fuji, board member and chairman of the planning committee of JNPC and executive chair of the editorial board of Nikkei Inc. The conference will be conducted in English and Japanese with simultaneous interpretation. The interpretation will be provided by Mrs. Mariko Nagai and Ms. Yuri Yoshikuni of Simul International. And now, Minister, could we ask you to take the floor, please?
Let me say what a great pleasure it is to be back in Japan and to address the Japan National Press Club. I obviously do this as the Foreign Minister of India, but I think, as my friend told you, I'm also in a way a veteran of 3 decades of India-Japan ties. And in a kind of way, also a pioneer of the Quad, one of the pioneers of the Quad. I've been associated with it since it restarted in 2017, but also the first time we attempted it in 2007. I mention these two facts because a lot of what I'm going to say is related to India-Japan relations, also to the Quad, and this in fact, these 2 meetings are the main reason why I'm here in Tokyo today. Let me first start with India-Japan relations. I think they have come a very long way in the last 25 years, especially in the last decade, since 2014-15. And there are many reasons for this. For us, history has never been a burden. Politics has actually been very helpful. Economics has become a larger factor. Technology has made its contribution. And culture and tourism a larger connect. And our people-to-people ties have steadily expanded. Each of these actually has room for further growth. which is exactly the focus of my discussions, which I just finished with Minister Kamikawa Yoko. Clearly, neither of our countries live in isolation. Our ties are shaped by the regional and global environment. And in an era of new capabilities and new technologies, indeed of new challenges and new stresses, we do need a contemporary partnership. That is what we believe is today in the making between India and Japan. Where India is concerned, do recognize that we are currently the 5th largest economy in the world, which is substantially higher than and larger than what it was when I was first associated with this relationship. The growth rate in India, even after COVID, is in excess of 7% and is likely to remain so for many decades to come. The changes of the last decade, we expect that to unfold further, have made India a globally relevant player, globally relevant economic player. Our commitment to ease of doing business, to promoting ease of living, to ensuring Make in India, to building rapid infrastructure, for digital delivery and inclusive growth, all these combined are today transforming the landscape in India. Poverty levels in India have also dropped dramatically, and the middle class is growing rapidly. Industrial growth has been robust, and in some sectors they have been facilitated by a scheme called production-linked incentives. Now, why am I saying this to you? I'm saying this to you because it is important for our partners in Japan to appreciate the scale and intensity of the changes which are underway in India. To give you a sense, a feel really for the change, if you look at the last 10 years, we have on average built 8 new airports every year, about 1.5 to 2 new metros, 2 new metros in new cities every year. We build today 28 kilometers of highway every day. We lay railway tracks of 8 kilometers also every day. If you look at our education and skills, the institutions of educational institutions have doubled in the last 10 years. And it is no accident that there are now 1,600 global capability centers across India that generate exports of more than $100 billion every year. So we are not just a more attractive economic partner, but we are also a more capable one. And in a range of domains, in areas like semiconductors, electric vehicles, space, drones, green energy, India is actually today seeking to leapfrog. It has the ambitions and increasingly the ability to become a global partner for many advanced economies. Our goal, where Japan is concerned, is to increase investments rapidly. There are 1,400 Japanese businesses operating in India. We would like to see that number grow. And we have an investment target of 5 trillion yen, that is $42 billion by 2027. In India, I must tell you that Japan has long been associated with economic and technology advancement. It's not just the example of Japanese progress itself, but it's also reflected in the history of our collaboration. Japanese companies, Japanese industry, in many ways triggered the automobile revolution in India. The partnership was responsible as well for the proliferation of metros in 100 global capability centers across India that generate exports of more than $100 billion every year. So we are not just a more attractive economic partner, but we are also a more capable one. And in a range of domains, in areas like semiconductors, electric vehicles, space, drones, green energy, India is actually today seeking to leapfrog. It has the ambitions and increasingly the ability to become a global partner for many advanced economies. Our goal, where Japan is concerned, is to increase investments rapidly. There are 1,400 Japanese businesses operating in India. We would like to see that number grow. And we have an investment target of 5 trillion yen, that is $42 billion, by 2027. In India, I must tell you that Japan has long been associated with economic and technology advancement. It's not just the example of Japanese progress itself, but it's also reflected in the history of our collaboration. Japanese companies, Japanese industry, in many ways triggered the automobile revolution in India. The partnership was responsible as well for the proliferation of metros that I spoke about. We are right now engaged in an important high-speed railway project. And certainly global priorities like semiconductors, AI or EVs and green energy, they offer great potential for our cooperation. It is also very much in Japan's own interest to accelerate the emergence of resilient and reliable supply chains, as well as transparent and trusted digital collaboration. These are today the focus of our conversations, both bilaterally and in the Quad, because they do have a larger implication. Our efforts would be strengthened by deeper networking of our business communities, which we would like to promote. Now, while I have spoken about growth and progress, they clearly require security and stability. In a volatile and unpredictable era in which we live, these are best ensured through stronger international cooperation. In recent years, between India and Japan, we have undertaken regular exercises involving air, naval, and ground forces. Our ships visit each other's ports more frequently. Our defense leadership holds exchanges more often. We are right now beginning to explore projects under the Defense Equipment and Technology Cooperation, DETC Cooperation Initiative. And this is important because in India, our own domestic defense industry and our exports are growing very rapidly. Every relationship is ultimately anchored on a societal connect. There is still a gap, I would say, between our goodwill and our exchanges. My talks also focused on increasing exchanges in education, tourism, culture, and civil society. We believe that both Japan and our relationship will be well served through greater utilization of skilled Indian professionals in the Japanese economy. Our special strategic and global partnership has been led by a tradition of annual summits and high-level exchanges. I see that the Speaker of Japan, Nukaga Fukushiro, is actually visiting India at this very time. Let me conclude this segment on Japan by underlining that India-Japan relations, we are striving to realize the full potential of our contemporary capabilities, especially in the light of the changing global scenario. Our objective is to highlight that new opportunities are there and that their harnessing is essential to that purpose. So let me now say a few words.
それではここでクアッドについての考えを述べさせてください。私ども会合をやったことを皆様はご覧になり、そして集団的に。
So on the Quad, there are a few points I would like to stress. One, that the Quad is in the field of critical and emerging technologies. We are strengthening supply chain resilience. We are advancing telecom technology, including 5G and ORAN, and we are promoting digital connectivity. When it comes to infrastructure and connectivity, physical connectivity, Quad partners coordinate in order to promote transparency and viability and local ownership. Our export credit agencies agreed this year to collectively work together to enhance supply chains and investments. We offer training to infrastructure policymakers and practitioners, and we are developing a high-level principles for digital public infrastructure. The Quad also has a senior cyber group which promotes cyber security standards, secured software development, and skilling the cyber workforce. We will be hosting in India a gathering in November on how to protect critical infrastructure. We actually have a virtual exercise of CERT teams as one of the next steps in that regard. The Quad also cooperates or has started cooperating recently on space. We have organized capacity building workshops in the Indo-Pacific for many countries, and we are actually contemplating a pilot project in one of the Indian Ocean countries to monitor extreme precipitation using space-based data. Maritime, there's always been a maritime focus for Quad since its inception. In fact, the Indo-Pacific Maritime Domain Awareness Initiative was launched as an outcome of Quad deliberations. It is today unfolding in Pacific and Southeast Asia. We are trying to connect up our fusion centers here. We've also been working on HADR, humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. We have formalized guidelines, held tabletop exercises, and in fact, one very good example of Quad cooperation was there was a big landslide in Papua New Guinea, and we were able, for example, I know our relief supplies were able to reach Papua New Guinea and be of help to people because our Quad partners helped to get it there. Counterterrorism has been a similar collaborative endeavor. We are doing our greater networking. We've already done 5 tabletop exercises. We are working on common principles to counter terrorism. When it comes to the socio-economic domain, I want to say Quad is also working on climate action. We support Indo-Pacific countries in their energy transition, in encouraging climate information exchanges, in discussing disaster risk, resilience, and capacity building. When the COVID was on, I must remind you that Quad countries worked together on providing vaccines. We provided almost 400 million doses in the Indo-Pacific. And today, what began as a vaccine partnership, I think is evolving into a larger health security partnership. And today in the Quad, we are discussing pandemic preparedness, digital health prospects, and even cooperation on cancer. So 2 years ago, when we had a Quad summit in Tokyo, we had launched the Quad STEM fellowships. The first cohort has graduated. The second one will include, other than Quad countries, also students from the ASEAN. There are many other aspects of the Quad. We are having policy planning discussions, digital dialogues, young leaders fellowships, think tank networks. So I'm sharing this as a sort of flavor so that you understand really, in a way, I would say, how the Quad since 2017, since it was reincarnated, how the Quad has emerged as an important and productive platform. It does global good. It certainly contributes, it ensures free and open Indo-Pacific that promotes progress, prosperity, security, and stability. I felt today that, by explaining the twin goals of my trip, the main purpose, of course, was Quad, but this trip gave me a chance to engage on India-Japan relations as well. I'll give you a full picture because one supports the other. So this is really, in a sense, the issues which I wanted to put before you. But I would be delighted to respond to these, or if there are any other questions related to India or to Indian foreign policy, I'd be very happy to answer them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Now then, I'd like to start the Q&A session. First, I'd like to tell you how to ask a question. If you are in the room, please raise your hand. There are 2 standing microphones. If you are nominated, please proceed to one of those microphones. Please identify yourself by stating your name and affiliation and proceed to your question. Online participants, if you want to direct a question, please use the raise a hand button and please unmute yourself. If you want to ask a question by texting, please enter your question to a Q&A box. I will read your question on your behalf. First, I'd like to ask one question from the moderator. As a moderator, between India and Japan, relationship there between, it's very important, you have stated in your initial remarks. Since some time, political level, the bilateral relationship made a huge progress. However, when it comes to business relationship, the relationship is lagging behind. I think you said that in your presentation. So the investment plan that you have was introduced in your presentation. Japanese companies are aware of the full potential of the future growth of India. They are cognizant of that. But some companies are still reluctant to go to India because of the business practice and legal systems and other systems of India. Regarding Japanese investment, what kind of initiatives and programs do you think you need in your country? Floor is yours, sir.
I said that politics is doing well. I said business is also doing well, but could do much better. And I think one of the reasons is that the understanding about India in Japan, especially among Japanese businesses, is perhaps a little bit dated. That, when we, the 4-5 examples that I gave about how India is changing, I don't think many Japanese companies readily know that there are 8 new airports being built in India, or that there are 30 kilometers of highway. They may not associate this kind of infrastructure growth really with India. Similarly, if you look today at ease of doing business, there's been a lot of progress in cutting the bureaucracy, simplifying paperwork. The interesting thing is we are today globally the largest recipient of FDI in the world. So we must be doing something right if the rest of the world is investing so heavily. So I feel perhaps some of our messages which may have resonated, gone well with in some other geographies have not done so well in Japan. So if something is not up to your mark, I think it's natural. You work harder, you speak better, you get across the changes, you communicate the changes that are happening. And quite honestly, that's one of the reasons I'm here. That I hope that when people read about this in tomorrow's newspaper or on their websites or on the social media, that they will get a sense that this is not the India of, let us say, 10 years ago, definitely not of 20 years ago, that all these changes are taking place. If you just, when I say that, say, the number of skilled people, we are heading to an era where actually the availability of talent and skills is going to be very, very important. Because after all, AI will require, what does AI require? It requires a lot of energy, and it requires a lot of brain. So you will need more people involved in it. So I think it's, to me, how to update the understanding of Japanese business. This is one of my key objectives. So we've also been in touch with some of the key associations. I've invited them to come to India to see some of this for themselves. And even with the speaker, I think there is a business delegation traveling. I hope they will make full use of it.
はい、ありがとうございます。それでは、
Thank you very much. We'd like to entertain questions. The person in the front. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Mainichi Shimbun, Maro is my name. I'd like to ask a question regarding a global challenge. Russia's invasion into Ukraine India is positive about playing an intermediary role, but there's a strong partnership between India and Russia traditionally. With regard to the war between Russia and Ukraine, how do you intend to mediate this so that it's fair and equitable? India has nuclear weapons. If Ukraine had the nuclear weapons, do you think the Russian invasion would not have occurred?
Can I do one thing? Can I take 2-3 questions at a time? It may just make, because
Okay.
it may allow me to cover maybe 2 questions.
OK。じゃあ、もう時間も限られてます。
In the interest of time, I'd like to accept the 2 questions or so, and then the answer will be made gathering all those questions. Asahi Newspaper, Ito is my name. Thank you very much. I'd like to ask a business-related question. Earlier on, as the moderator said, Japanese companies are reluctant. They are willing to invest, but they are reluctant to go themselves, especially in comparison with China. SME's advancement is lagging behind regarding India. Small businesses could go to India. And in order to encourage that, what kind of cooperation do you think you need? One more thing, social reform. What kind of social reform is needed in order for Japanese small companies to go to India? One more question.
Dominguez from the Japan Times. Thank you so much for your time. There have been reports in Indian media that Prime Minister Modi is planning or considering a trip to Ukraine. Could you perhaps tell us more about that and exactly what is planned and how that fits in with New Delhi's strategy to play a role between both Russia and Kiev?
Peace.
So what I'd like to do is to take the first question and the third question together because they're related. So let me put across what is the Indian view of the conflict in Ukraine. We've from the very beginning had the view that use of force does not resolve problems between countries. And in the last 2.5 years, as this conflict has deepened, it has cost lives, it has done economic damage, it has had global consequences. I mean, if you look at parts of Asia and Africa and Latin America, it has actually impacted other societies. It has created food shortages, it has raised energy costs, it has created fertilizer supply problems, it has contributed to global inflation. In some cases, it has even directly triggered economic crisis in countries. So it is something, it's very serious as it is, but its implications in a globalized world is even more serious. So we recognize that. Our position has been that we do not think that a solution will emerge from the battlefield, that the war may go on, lives may be lost, the positions may shift here and there, but we're not going to see a decisive outcome which will settle it. So from the very start, and this feeling has grown in recent months, we believe that there must be a return to dialogue and diplomacy. If you recall, at the early stages, there were some discussions directly between Ukraine and Russia. Even I must tell you, even in the last 2 years that have passed, there have been occasions when different countries have tried to do something. If you remember in 2022, Turkey took the lead to see whether wheat grain could come through the Black Sea corridor. Some countries took the lead in exchange of prisoners of war. There was a great concern about the possibility that the nuclear power station in Zaporizhzhia may come under attack. Now, in different cases, we've actually been helpful, we've been supportive of other countries. I have myself, on my Prime Minister's instructions, worked with Turkey, with the IAEA head, Rafael Grossi, with the UN Secretary General. So we've been doing what we can. Our feeling today is that, more needs to be done, that we should not resign ourselves to the continuation of the current state of conflict and say, well, let this take its own course and let us wait for events in other parts of the world to provide some kind of solution. That, to our mind, would be fatalistic. It would not be, given the gravity of the situation. I think it's important for countries who are in touch with both parties, because there are not many countries who are actually talking in a way to both Russia and to Ukraine. So we do believe that we should be more active there. Recently, I must tell you, Prime Minister met President Zelensky in the sidelines of the G7 in Italy. A few weeks later, we were in Moscow for our annual summit. So he had a chance to discuss with President Putin at very great length. I myself have kept in touch with my counterpart, Dmytro Kuleba. Other senior officials on our side have done it with their counterparts. So we do believe today that it's important for everybody to do whatever they can to see if in some way something improves, some move out of the battlefield into the conference table takes place. So that is our endeavor. So as for your specific question, I can reasonably expect that there will be more contacts between us and Ukraine and between us and Russia as well. But something more specific than that, is we, like any government, we make our positions known at the right time through the right channels. So there's really not more that I can say. On the question from our colleague from Asahi Shimbun, in a way, we go back to the earlier issue. You mentioned that Japanese business are more reluctant compared to some other geographies. It is true. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. But sometimes whether that reluctance is due to shortcomings on our part or due to lack of knowledge on your part, that is something we need to see. I'm not saying there are no shortcomings. There are. I mean, we have a lot of issues. We are constantly trying to improve it. That's why we call improving ease of doing business. In fact, from the time Prime Minister Modi became Prime Minister, it has been one of his major focus, because if you improve the climate of business, you attract more investment. Investment means jobs. You are actually helping, that's the way to grow. And that's the way to grow in a very inclusive, people-centric way. So we are at it. We also recognize that it is a particular challenge to get SMEs. And I think my own sense, this applies with some other countries, the experiences we have, is that SMEs look for comfort to larger companies. SMEs often work with larger companies go, the SMEs go along with them. So only us targeting SMEs and saying, you come, many SMEs have hesitations. So we have to work the SMEs, but we definitely have to target larger companies. And I would make one point. Yes, you can say maybe Japanese business has not shown the same enthusiasm, relatively speaking. But look at the business who are there. I mean, please look at a company like Suzuki. Today, Suzuki would not have grown to the level which it has if they had not come to India. Look at the Japanese footprint, in fact, I would say in the last 30, 40 years. Look at the profitability. Many of them may have large operations in other geographies. But look at the profitability of those operations as compared to India as well. So, we are today growing rapidly. I mean, if I put it to you very soberly, that you are talking about an economy which is going to grow 7% year on year, certainly in my lifetime, probably in yours as well. So do Japanese companies want to get in early or not? Do they want to look at opportunities? Because the more they delay, in a way, there will be others. It's a competitive world. And to some extent that has happened in some sectors. So I would make a very strong pitch because I think in Japan there's a lot of political comfort. As I said, historically we've always had a very positive view of Japan. So I think there is a very warm welcome waiting for Japanese companies. They need to update their understanding. It's our responsibility to help them to update that understanding, and that is what we hope to do.
はい、次に質問。
Next question, please. The person in the last row, lady, please.
From Nippon TV. I'm going to be speaking in English. So I have a few questions regarding the Quad. So is there any plan for the Quad members or perhaps to India and Japan to conduct a joint military exercise this year? And when and where will the Quad summit by the leaders of the Quad nations be held this year? And what's the agenda of the next Quad summit going to be? And if possible, you mentioned about the pilot project earlier. So could you explain about the pilot project that you talked about a little bit more? Thank you.
Okay. 他に、はい。
Other questions?
Second question, please.
From Nikkei newspaper, and I will be speaking in English as well. So my question is about your view on China. So the Quad has been intensifying its efforts to secure free and open Indo-Pacific, but whereas China has been engaging in conflicts with Philippines, for example. And so, what are your thoughts on China's maritime activities, and how do you see China as a partner and as a rival to your country? Thank you.
はい、もう一問。
There is a question online. I'd like to take one question online. Recently, in the related book published in Japan, these books talk about under Mr. Modi, democracy makes drawbacks, and rather India prefers the relationship with Russia or China sharing value with them. Do you have any rebuttal to such points expressed in the recently published books? The floor is yours, sir.
Okay. On Quad. We have military exercises with individual Quad members. We have with Japan, we have with US, we have with Australia. It also so happens before the Quad was second time it was reincarnated in 2017, that there is an exercise, naval exercise called Malabar, which has been going on for many, many years. But I want to be clear here. The Quad does not deal with exercises. The Quad basically looks at a whole set of domains. I shared some of it, technology, connectivity, human resource development. It deals with maritime security, but maritime security more from the point of view of global, of maritime domain awareness. How do we cooperate on, ensuring that shipping is secure? So the Quad itself does not directly oversee. For example, today we had a discussion for many hours. So we did not discuss military issues per se. So I think sometimes there is a confusion in that regard. So I thought I should clarify that to you. Your question on the summit. India is the host for this year's Quad at that level. And we are still discussing when to do the summit. When you ask me what is the agenda, I think we came up today, we of course reviewed the progress, what we've done in the last year, but we definitely came up with some new ideas. And I think those will all be feeding into what will be the summit. But I can generally tell you that the agenda, the idea, for example, is disaster resilience, or digital. We're putting a lot of emphasis on digital, on critical emerging technologies, on physical connectivity, on how to, build capacities across the Indo-Pacific. So what is the idea? There are two ideas. One, how do you do global good? The second is, how do you give countries the ability to make more choices freely based on merits? The choice is for them to make. But our contribution would be to build in them the capacity to evaluate and make those choices. So I think that is what we are looking at. I spoke about pilot projects. We have one project on telecom in Palau, but we are also offering a project on space-based data for extreme weather events, which we are, I think, considering offering to Mauritius. On the second question, what are my views on China? That by itself will take a very long time. But I would only say this, more than, we obviously have views on China which are based on our experience. Right now, I have to be honest, our relations with China are not doing very well. The main reason for that was that in 2020, during the COVID, China brought very large forces to the border areas between India and China in violation of agreements that we had with China. And that created, tensions. It led to a clash. There were people who died on both sides. And the consequences of that, because the issue has not been resolved fully, continue. So right now, if you ask me, how are your relations with China? I have to tell you they are not good, they are not normal right now. But obviously as a neighbor, we hope for a better relationship, but that can only happen if they respect the line of actual control and if they respect agreements which they have signed in the past. Now, but when we look at the larger region, I would say it's not just China. We would look at any country, does that country contribute to global good, to stability? Are their political and economic activities helpful for a prosperous, free and open region? So there would be some I would say, conceptual metrics which we would use for any country when making a judgment whether, in our view, at this time, are the policies of those countries helpful, or do they align with the direction we are going or not. And I think there, some of the issues which you yourself mentioned, I think those are certainly issues that merit our attention. The last question, the online question, I think the democracy drawbacks. Look, we've been a victim of a very intensive and sustained campaign about democracy. Now, we just had our elections some weeks ago. While our elections were going on, people attacked. They said the election won't be fair. They said the election machines, the voting machine won't be okay. They said, we don't know what the results are going to be. Now, you look actually at what happened. So I put it to you that, for me, it's very disturbing to see when the institutions and practices of a democracy are targeted by vested interests. And if those vested interests come from another democracy, then it's actually very disturbing. Tomorrow, surely, Japanese would not like other countries to start commenting on Japanese politics, Japanese voting, Japanese way of decision making, what did you do right, what did you do wrong. So I think countries need to respect each other. I think democracies need to respect each other even more. So, when you say, this is, I think whoever asked that question, it shows how well informed they are if they think our relationship with China is extremely good. My answer would tell you something very different. In fact, what am I saying? I'm actually saying my relations with Japan are very good. The Quad has been very good. Look at the Quad. Therefore, we're all democracies. So if Quad is doing well and India-Japan relations are doing well, I think that answers the question.
はい、そろそろ時間ですが。
We are approaching the closing time, but I'd like to accept the 2 questions, only 2 questions. He has kindly agreed to accept. So one more person in the hall, and if not, I will accept. Well, there is another person in the hall. Please proceed. Please be succinct. Iwata from Sankei newspaper. You talked about your relationship with China. Now, between India and China relationship and border area tension is rising. For the solution of this problem, what do you expect of a Quad in order to solve this tension relationship between India and China? And you said that the solution is not found on the battleground. And what was the reaction of President? What was the reaction from U.S. or Japan regarding that comment? Next question, please be succinct.
Thank you very much. This is Alice French from Nikkei Asia. I know that you just mentioned respecting other countries and not commenting on other democracies, but the US does, of course, have a major election coming up this November. I'm wondering how India views its relationship with the US, particularly in the case of potential victory for the Republicans, and whether or not you had any discussions with Secretary of State Blinken today about the future of your relationship were that to happen. Thank you.
お願いします。
Do you want me to take a few more?
Only 2, or you want another?
I saw two people raise their hands, so I could take them in one round.
Okay. じゃあお二方
All right, 2 more people. Please be brief. Thank you very much for your presentation. TBS Television, Ochia is my name. My question, India-Japanese relationship. You said that tourism, culture, and education, in these domains, you wanted to see the relationship develop more. On these fronts, I don't have the actual feel of things are progressing in terms of the relationship between the 2 countries, education, tourism, and culture. What are the concrete areas that you want to see developed further?
Thank you very much. Matsumoto Mainichi Shimbun. Japan-India relations, a special strategic global partnership. It's been 10 years since it's been elevated to that level, and it's a milestone year. And you've said that you need to see a partnership with regard to future partnership between Japan and India. Did you talk specifics with Foreign Minister Kamikawa?
Thank you. The question to me was, what did the Quad have to say about the India-China issue? I think that was the question. Look, we have a problem, or I would say an issue between India and China. We obviously have a relationship with China. I think it is for the 2 of us to talk it over and to find a way. Now, obviously, other countries in the world would have an interest in the matter because we are 2 big countries, and what the state of our relationship has an impact on the rest of the world. But we are not looking to other countries to sort out what is really an issue between us and China. It is for the 2 of us to sort it out. And that is what we are doing. I mean, I have myself met Foreign Minister Wang Yi twice this month, just a few days ago in Lao PDR. And we have been, very clear with the Chinese that this is an issue between us and we need to settle it between us. And the issue is a very clear one, which is if countries have agreements, countries must abide by agreements. You asked me what are the reactions of other countries about our remarks on solutions not coming from the battleground. Well, we have said this publicly. I have said this in the Quad as well. I think sometimes Quad partners may agree, sometimes the nuance may be different or they may have a different view. This is, each country would have its own view, especially of something as complicated and challenging as the conflict which is currently underway in Ukraine. On the question about, what is happening in American politics, look, if I have just said that I don't think it's really appropriate for people in one democracy to comment, especially with an agenda on the workings of another democracy, surely now you're not expecting bad manners on my side. If I'm complaining others do not follow the right etiquette, I think it's important at least I set an example. So the best answer I can give you is not to answer that question. On the India-Japan relations, yes, our tourism numbers can improve. It's growing, but it can definitely improve. Our education numbers are not good. So we have been discussing it with our Japanese partners. We feel there should be a greater effort made to get Indian students. There are more than 1 million Indian students studying across the world. I think the number of Indian students in Japan is what? 1,500. Okay. So clearly something is missing there. And so today, in fact, Minister Kamikawa informed me that Japan was extending the JET program to India. So we have to look at a number of steps. I don't think there's a single, we think, for example, there are countries where 1 million Indians go out as tourists. Sometimes millions in plural. But I don't think the tourism numbers are that great in Japan. They're very high in Thailand, they're high in Singapore, they're high in the US, in Europe. So I think changes in visa policy, changes in education policy, getting more familiar. It's not only business which is not familiar with India. I think many Japanese civil society organizations, even universities, I think their picture of India is a very old picture. So, like in our digital world, I think they all need to press a refresh button. The last question, 10 years of the special global strategic partnership. Yes, we discussed what should be the new agenda in a way. And if I were to sum up, one part of it is exactly what I said, which is more students, more tourism, more societal contact. One part of it is what I answered to the gentleman there, which is more business, a better understanding of business. But if I were really to pick today one particular area of importance, not only for ourselves but for the world, I would say it's most important today in the when you look at critical emerging technologies, that we are today moving into the world of AI, into the world of electric vehicles, into a world of green and renewable energy. These are areas where actually India has a very important contribution to make. If Japan wants to be a major player in these domains, I think the relationship with India will be much more important than it was in the era of old-fashioned manufacturing, when basically Japan concentrated on China. I think the digital AI, drones, these are much more sensitive technologies, and I think it's important to work here with a trusted partner. And I think that is really the hand that India is extending to Japan today in the world. So thank you. That was.
Thank you very much. And Jaishankar Gaisho.
Thank you very much, Minister Shankar. Thank you very much for responding to so many questions. Now, those who are in the hall, please remain seated until the delegation leaves the room. With this, we'd like to conclude the press conference.
So that was External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar addressing the media on the sidelines of the Quad Foreign Ministers meeting. External Affairs Minister said that India is currently on the 5th largest economy and which is substantially higher and larger than previous years. The growth rate also, even after COVID-19, it's been excess to 7% as per the minister. He further said that we expect it to unfold further and this has definitely made India a globally relevant player. Now, poverty, as per the minister, levels in India, they've also dropped down and industrial growth has been robust. And also speaking about India's growth journey, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar said that it is important for the partners in Japan to appreciate the scale of change witnessed by India. Now, he also said that there are now 1,600 capability centers across India, which makes India even more attractive economically. And there are 1,400 Japanese businesses currently operating in India, and India is looking forward for those businesses to grow further. He further added that the goal of India is to increase the investments rapidly across both the nations and inviting vis-a-vis. Now, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin on Monday met with his Japanese counterpart Minoru Kihara on the sidelines of the US-Japan Security Consultative Committee, which is also known as 2+2. Both the leaders agreed to enhance bilateral defense cooperations to deepen coordination with its allies' forces. Now, as plans for a major revamp of US military command in Japan was announced by US and Japan on Sunday following the 2+2 meeting. The new command structure would be implemented in parallel with Tokyo's own plans to establish a joint command for its forces by March 2025. The overhaul is among several measures taken to address what the country said was an evolving security environment, noting various threats from Japan's neighborhood, China.
Together, we are enhancing our ability to deter and respond to destabilizing actions. And today, we'll continue to advance key areas for defense cooperation, including alliance strike capabilities, our presence in the Southwest Islands, joint exercises and training, ISR cooperation, and force posture.
Meanwhile, China has reacted sharply to the joint statements by the US and Japan. China's foreign ministry said that Quad is falsely accusing China of maritime crimes. During a regular news briefing in Beijing, Chinese foreign ministry spokesperson Lin Jian described the joint statement as irresponsible and a blatant interference in China's internal affairs.
The Japan-US joint statements showed a disregard to the facts, distorted the truth, maliciously attacked China's foreign policy, blatantly interfered in China's internal affairs. They maliciously attacked and discredited China on maritime issues and made irresponsible remarks on China's normal military development and national defense policy. China is strongly dissatisfied with the exaggeration of China's threat and the malicious speculation of regional tension.
Australia is launching a new cable connectivity and resilience centre to help undersea cable networks in the Indo-Pacific. Australian Minister for Foreign Affairs Penny Wong, in a statement, announced that the centre will ensure that Indo-Pacific networks are resilient and all the countries can benefit from reliable connectivity and the growth of digital economy. The statement added that the work is integral to prosperity and security of the region. Australia is going to invest more than $18 million over the next 4 years in the centre. The investment will provide technical assistance and training across the Indo-Pacific. The pledged investment will share information and host dialogues to strengthen engagement between Indo-Pacific governments and the industry. And now it's time to take a look at news making news around the globe. So let's quickly begin with that. It was the day of thrills and marvels as tourists and residents celebrated the 20th anniversary of Mostar's traditional bridge in Bosnia. The 16th century architecture marvel had been destroyed during the Balkan Wars. It was rebuilt in 2004 and inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And now it's time to quickly bring you all the latest from the world of Olympics. Indian shooter Manu Bhaker built on her bronze medal with a third-place finish with Sarabjot Singh in the 10-meter air pistol mixed team qualification event on Monday. Bhaker, along with her partner Sarabjot Singh, are now into the bronze medal contention. Manu will shoot on Tuesday with Sarabjot for a shot at another glory in the third-fourth place playoff against Korea, which is scheduled to take place tomorrow as per 1 o'clock as per Indian Standard Time. On the other hand, the Indian team consisting of Rhythm Sangwan and Arjun Chima crashed out as they finished at the 10th spot. That's all for this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, along with Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Deepika Mehta, and from all of us here in Delhi, thank you so much for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.